Hi there, welcome back to Card Reads by Annie here at All That Is in Dryden. And we're about to we're having a little bit of technical issues with my telephone. So we're going to go ahead and answer an email question. And this question, I'm not sure where L is from. However, just want to know what you see for my eldest son. Thank you. So let's find out, L. I will email you, and well, I guess by the time you see this, you'll have known I've emailed you. But I will be emailing, and that's how it works with email questions. I will email you back and let you know what episode you're aired on, and if you're not local to us here, once it's been aired locally, we do load it up onto YouTube, and you can have a peek on there. It says to have faith, something that he's been wanting. We definitely need to have faith. So it's almost looking here like we're a little bit concerned about career or perhaps layoffs or perhaps which direction to take our career. But it is showing here. It may be a little chaotic still for him. There he is. Maybe a little chaotic for him still for a couple of months. Hate to say that, perhaps 4 months. But definitely looking here like through a conversation that seems to come up rather suddenly, we do seem to have a spark of an idea of which direction to turn. It also shows here making some decisions about a partner. So if he's in a relationship now, I tend to think that we're looking at making that a little permanent, which is always, you know, reason to celebrate, I feel, especially if it brings on a certain patience within that couple. Sometimes people can bring out the worst in each other, but sometimes there's people who certainly bring out the best for each other. We call those permanent partners, or most people call them soulmates. So, but it is showing here that there has been some worry. It's showing that there is still that 2 to 4 months of stress and chaos, but we definitely have a conversation coming that's going to lead him in that direction. So I hope that answers your question. We're going to go ahead and try a phone call here and see what Joanne has to say. So, sorry, I'm a little slow, and we do this kind of old school. I think cell phones on TV might be old school, but it works for us here usually. Well, not today. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to another email question. Technology and I don't always get along, which is why my emails are, yes, handwritten, because my phone just absolutely refuses to hook up with my printer. And we're going to go ahead with that. So we have Pam from Portage, and she asks, am I going to meet and date a worthy partner this year? Well, let's find out. I always say to people when they meet somebody for the first time, go to the busiest place and have your first date on a Sunday after church gets out. When we go out and have a couple of cocktails or a bottle of wine over dinner, you know what, we're all pretty relaxed. But how do we treat each other, or how does he treat the serving staff, or how does she treat the serving staff, perhaps when they've gotten slammed with 40 orders all at once? If they're patient, chances are they're going to stay patient. If they're kind of snappy with that staff, chances are they're going to be snappy with you down the road. So I always say, go for breakfast, not for dinner, for your first date, and make it the busiest place in town at church time on a Sunday, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But Pam, let's find out. Okay, so you have some ideals that you're sticking to, nothing wrong with that. We all have a past, and sometimes the past tells us what we don't want in the future, and that looks like the case here. So it is saying here, you have a strong independence to a certain degree, and for that reason, you can kind of weed out what's good for you and what's not bad for you, okay? So in other words, if in the first 2 weeks something doesn't sit well with you, call that person out on it. You have a strong personality, and there's no reason why not. And I think everybody should do that early on in a relationship. If something doesn't sit well with you, man or woman, speak up on it, because 6 months later, we're the ones that look crazy because we we were fine with it 6 months ago and not today. So you're better off letting the person know who you are early on in the relationship and say, that's just not okay with me, or I love this, okay? Whichever the case may be. I do tend to think you're going to find a worthy partner this year, yes. However, it doesn't feel like it's going to be right in Portage, because it says we're going to have to travel a short distance to see each other. So we are going to have to drive back and forth for a visit. So then that becomes your choice then. Am I going to be willing to move one day if this turns into a permanent relationship? Not everybody can just pick up and move because their partner lives in another community, especially if we have career, kids, those kinds of things going on. So we kind of have to ask ourselves that, especially if it's further than, say, an hour or so away, because it does actually take its toll on you traveling back and forth. We wouldn't be speaking from experience whatsoever, okay? So it is showing here, yes, you will find a worthy partner this year. However, I don't believe he's going to be right in your community, but he might be working right in your community at this point in time. So he may be in the medical industry or perhaps working near a medical facility, but it's kind of showing up here. However, I can tell you this, your worthy partner will be full of celebration. In other words, they really like living, and that's a good thing. Okay, I think we know what I mean by that. As I said earlier, I've only had a couple of cups of coffee so far today, and that's not quite near enough. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do one more email question. I have time. Okay. A lot of work questions today. It kind of tells us where we're at, doesn't it? Where unemployment and stuff is concerned. I'm not going to get political. I'm not going to get into it. But it is showing here more and more people almost have to be creative in finding their own work sometimes. Same with poor young students who are deciding what to do for school. When I was going to school, you know, there was maybe 80 of us that competed for 40 seats. Nowadays, there's perhaps 2,000 people competing for those same 40 seats. So it's a tougher market today. Okay, so apparently I don't have time for an email question at the moment, but I will be back shortly because I do need a little more coffee. I'll see you in a minute.